right, cool. So I'll go ahead and get started. Thanks again, guys, everyone, for joining. On the Boardroom side, I just have a couple of quick pieces of info that I want to go over before we jump into the main content of the call. But I'm going to go through this as quickly as possible because, yeah, we have lots of people today, as you can see. So first up, just a quick reminder about the Delegate Rush program. We're still in the first half, which is the application phase, basically where people just come and create their delegate pitches on the forums. The second phase, which is the delegation phase, that will start on the 12th of this month. So we have a little over a week left, and that'll last 4 weeks as well. We currently have 5 applicants, and yeah, it would be great if we could get 5 mid-tier delegates out of this. I think that would be a good goal to reach. Yeah, and quickly, as I'm doing this, for anybody new that's joining that's speaking today, you can go ahead and raise your hand. I'll get you on the stage. Cool. Okay, we'll go ahead and get on to the main content for the call today. So instead of just telling you guys who all is coming one by one, I'll let the speakers introduce themselves. I'll just say that we're going to start with 3 DeFi protocols. We'll go on to Gauntlet, and then we'll finish on the delegate side. All A-tier teams and individuals, so really happy to have everybody here today. And yeah, like I said, we'll introduce you one by one, and I think we'll go ahead and start. We'll start with Mountain Protocol.
Awesome. Quick introduction about myself. I'm Martin, co-founder of Mountain Protocol. We are a yield-bearing stablecoin backed by T-bills, essentially very similar to how USDC or PYUSD are built. ERC20 in the front, treasuries in the back, with the big difference that our business model is passing most of the yield back to the holder instead of keeping that yield as an issuer. So essentially, when you're holding PYUSD or USDC or some other asset, whoever is holding that circle is making that 5% and passing 0 to you. We change those dynamics. And the proposal that we have up there is to allow USDM as an additional collateral for Moonwell. We think there's a couple of advantages to using USDM. I think the first one is on kind of low rate environments. USDM can essentially be an asset that is used as collateral to borrow cheap stable coins and then kind of like loop up and essentially bring the lending market as close to what USDM is paying as the efficiency of the protocol allows. So let's say if Mountain was paying 5%, someone would borrow until like something like 4.8, 4.7, and that means the lender would be getting like 4.5, 4.3. So that essentially you kind of put a floor to the lender rates. The second thing being if users decide to start depositing USDM, they essentially kind of like have a floor that is higher, which is the USDM or the wrapped USDM rate. And if rates are high, they can benefit from higher rates. But if rates are low, they can essentially cap their or like have at least what USDM is paying. The way USDM is built is as a rebasing token, very similar to staked ETH, but it has also an ERC 4626 vault contract, very similar to the wrapped staked ETH contract. And the integration into the protocol would be via this wrapped USDM. Wrapped USDM and USDM are interchangeable via the smart contract with 0 slippage at any size. So it's very easy to kind of mint and redeem, go from wrapped to unwrapped, very similar to how staked ETH works. And USDM is native both on Optimism and in Base, so can be extended to Base at some point. And finally, there is a program from Optimism to provide incentives into protocols integrating yield-bearing assets. That's a priority for Optimism. And Mountain Protocols USDM is whitelisted already inside of those incentives. To finalize, USDM has already liquidity on chain, so anyone can go and buy some USDM today. It is active already on Silo market for lending and borrowing. And we have an Oracle with Chainlink, so that's kind of like ready to go. So yeah, I'll stop there and see if there's any questions from the audience. Anything people want to say. One thing I forgot to mention: we are regulated, so regulated out of Bermuda. same jurisdiction where Coinbase, Kraken, XBTO, Zero Hash, Hashkey, etc. have all gone and gotten licenses. So I would say the top one crypto regulatory jurisdiction today in the market. So very compliant and safe asset in that regard. So with that, I'm going to stop and see if there's any questions from the audience.
Thank you, Martin. Yeah, if anybody has any questions, they can drop them in the chat, or they can also raise their hand. Just personally, I think it's pretty cool. I've been following Mountain Protocol for a while, so it's cool to have you guys on the call. Yeah, thank you again. If there's no questions, we'll head over to Adi with KelpDAO.
Awesome. We also have on call Sophia.
So great to see you guys here again. Glad the last vote went through. So we're with KelpDAO. We're a liquid restaking protocol built on EigenLayer. We're on 9 L2s at the moment, number one on several L2s, and have been really working on unwrapping base. So we took on the initiative, I think when we first started discussions with Moonwell, we were sitting at around 1.5 million TVL on Airdrome. Today, we're currently sitting at 7 million TVL on Airdrome, and that's mainly through 2 pools. That's with Lido and with V. So yeah, excited to be here and hear more from you guys. Thanks.
Awesome. Yeah, just adding on to Sophia's points. So right now, actually, we are sitting at our vote pass through. We are waiting for Gauntlet's review on the liquidity structure and what would be a supply caps. I hope like that would be live in a few days. Post that, I think there'll be like an on-chain vote, and afterwards the token gets listed on the markets. Our current aim is right now to get listed on the Base and the Optimism market. According to us, like it'll be one of the best opportunities out there for like restaking users. The incentives would actually entail 12 miles from our side, IGN rewards, and even well emissions later on. It would also be actually incentivized with Contango later on with looping strategies, who is also putting in 3x Contango points. So there's definitely like a ton of points and rewards upcoming. I'm pretty sure like it'll be a great addition to the Base and Optimism markets. If there are any questions, would love to answer them.
All right, thanks, Adi. We'll go ahead and go over to Origin Protocol.
Awesome. Thanks for having me back on. I think I actually recognize a handful of people that have joined the call. So hey, Jenga, hey Bear, hey Dwanbug. For those who weren't on the last call, I'm Peter from Origin. I've been the BD manager for 2 years here, and I've been in the space since 2013. It's my job to help integrate Origin products with other platforms. So last month I came on to discuss Origin's new LST that had just launched, or just about to launch. And I do have some exciting updates to share on that. But first, to recap, Origin's first DeFi product was OUSD, which was a yield-bearing stablecoin that we launched back in 2020. And then in 2023, we forked that token to launch OETH, which was an LST aggregator at the time. And then later, we simplified it to be an actual true LST. And then in late August of this year, we soft-launched Super OETH, which is the first supercharged LST. And so supercharged LSTs is essentially a new category that we created for LSTs. They have significantly higher yield while being designed specifically for layer 2s with a similar risk profile to mainnet LSTs. Essentially, Ethereum liquid staking is combined with auto-compounded incentives, and then deep concentrated liquidity pools can guarantee exits with minimal costs, so users will never lose the ability to convert back to ETH. And so we officially launched it the week of September 9th, so the week after I came on the last call. And honestly, we couldn't have asked for a more successful launch. The Super OETH TVL has grown from 7 million, which was the week of the 9th, I believe, to now 320 million just in the last 3 weeks, while being able to maintain double-digit yields natively, which we are tracking on what we call proof of yield that I just dropped the link for. But we've also become now the #1 protocol on DeFi Llama for yields on Base, which you can find us at the top of the list right here. And with that also, we have become the largest aerodrome pool, which you can see on this link here. So from the native Super ETH yield, which is between right now 14 and 15%. It's been quite lucrative for individuals to loop it. So a lot of people have been lending the wrapped version and just borrowing ETH and then converting that back into Super ETH and relending. And doing that loop a few times, you can go from 15% APY to 40% APY and higher if you include any additional emissions. And since Moonwell has such a low cost to borrow ETH, we think it's going to be a great fit to onboard Super ETH to Moonwell, which is why later today we'll be submitting a proposal to the forum for onboarding Super ETH. You can find the protocol itself here, which it looks like I shared previously in the chat, but I'll drop it again. That's where you can find it. So look out for that proposal. I have about 50% done, so maybe in like an hour it'll be ready to go. But if there's any questions on that, please add them to the comments of that proposal. But while I'm on here, feel free to drop any questions on Super ETH.
Awesome. Thank you, Peter. Good to hear the updates with Origin. And here we'll go to Gauntlet. So, Sai, whenever you're ready.
Hey guys, hope everyone is having like a great start to Thursday. So yeah, just going to walk over some of the recommendations that we've given out for the base, Optimism, Moonbeam, and Moonriver instances. I'm going to start off with base. We kind of recommended an increase in supply and borrow caps for Arrow, although we're like cautiously optimistic with just the Arrow emissions going on and probably the impact of it on the liquidity in general. But right now, liquidity seems like it's ticking upwards. So not a huge risk at this point to increase caps and allow some more of that capital to be supplied and borrowed. Similarly, for CBBTC, we've increased the supply caps up by around 30 to 40%. So yeah, more inflows of capital, and we see an uptake on borrow demand as well. But yeah, not yet at the threshold to increase CBBTC borrow caps. So yeah. Although, I mean, during the monthly recommendations we didn't, but more recently, I think like yesterday, we did increase the borrow caps. So yeah, apart from that, for USDBC, overall reduction in supply and borrow caps, and the same case for DAI. I think just the circulating supply of USDBC is kind of trending downwards, and a lot of people have already migrated to the native version, which is the USDC. It kind of makes sense to slowly kind of deprecate or like have users migrate to the more invasive asset here. Apart from that, increased reserve factor for USDBC for the same reason. This is from 50 to 75%. So if you're supplying USDBC, 3/4 of your supply APR is kind of going back to reserves. So maybe a good chance to switch to USDC and maybe get better APYs there. For the IR recommendations, we've recommended a decrease in borrow APR for USDC. This is kind of in line with the overall macro sense, where the Fed has cut interest rates by 50 basis points. The overall demand for borrowing stable coins across on-chain avenues is converging downwards. But yeah, trying to keep in line with market rates and trying to figure out what the true perceived market rate is here. So trying to basically advise reduction and see where the market prices it. Apart from that, we also reduced CBBTC borrow APRs to keep in line with market rates. Initially, I think it was about at 5+%, but right now it's at around 4.5-ish at Kink. So yeah, more lucrative borrow APRs on Moonwell. So if you want to borrow CBBTC, I think these rates would be pretty nice to do that. Moving on to Optimism, increased supply caps for VETH as well as Velo. But kind of being super risk off around Wrap Bitcoin, where we've decreased borrow caps, increased reserve factor, and kind of decreased collateral factors. I can probably talk more on Wrap Bitcoin later towards the end, so that there's more discourse around it. But apart from that, same recommendations for all the stable coins on Optimism, which is USDC, USDT, and DAI, to the rates that have been suggested on base. So right now, the borrow APRs at Kink are about 4.5-ish%. So yeah, again, very competitive rates to borrow stable coins from Moonwell. And yeah, moving down to Moonbeam, going pretty risk off as all the previous recommendations here. We did see a bit of uptick in liquidity, but I don't think it's at a level that warrants risk on measures here. again, reduced borrow caps for wrapped Bitcoin, wrapped ETH, cracks, and reduced collateral factors across the wormhole assets, which is USDC, BETH, and wrapped Bitcoin again. The native USDCs has seen like a great uptake in circulating supply here. So we went ahead and increased collateral factor from 15 to 60%, which is same as what USDT has on Moonbeam, but haven't really recommended an increase in caps here. Again, largely tied to liquidity on chain. Apart from that, suggested an increase in reserve factor for wrapped Bitcoin. More on that towards the end. For Moonriver, however, I think there's some level of bad debt on the XCKSM asset, about 100K, and I think it's some of the remnants of the past bridge hacks. And yeah, there's ample reserve in the chain or across the protocol to cover this. So for now, I think this seems to be, just to reduce the accumulation or accrual of bad debt, we've reduced borrow APRs so that if and when the community wants to kind of clear this bad debt, then yeah, it doesn't accrue a lot of interest and it'd be in a better state. So coming down to the wrapped Bitcoin, I'm assuming people are aware of all the discourse that's happening around. There's been quite a lot of proposals being put up across different lending protocols, and I think this situation is pretty idiosyncratic to Moonwell, where Moonwell doesn't really have as much exposure as some of the peer lending protocols have. So we can probably take a more risk-off measure without having a huge dent in TVL. So on that note, we've kind of recommended an increase in reserve factor gradually. Plan is to increase reserve factor starting this month and doubling the rate of increase for the next 2 months. Effectively, within 3 months, you should, like the wrapped Bitcoin instances on Moonbeam and Optimism should have 100% reserve factor. So it's basically you wouldn't be getting any supply APRs on your collateral. But again, this 3-month period is for the community like to decide or like choose between any suitable alternatives. But at the same time, people who are supplying wrapped Bitcoin are still users of the protocol. So I want to give them ample time to migrate to any other suitable asset. But yeah, overall on Optimism, wrapped Bitcoin's exposure is about 5.5% on the supply side and 2.3% on the borrow side, so not really a lot. The only exception here is on Moonbeam, where I think a single user whose capital is pretty mercenary from what I believe is supplying 99 or like 98% of this total supply on Moonbeam. And yeah, I think basically this user is probably choosing the well incentives, which were previously a lot more. So yeah, pretty significant TVL on the Moonbeam side, but we believe it's kind of migrating this TVL off from wrapped Bitcoin is more prudent given just the on-chain liquidity and the overall speculation here. So yeah, that's basically a gist of the monthly recommendations. You can go ahead on the forum and read through the more detailed, in-depth analysis here. So yeah, I can probably go on and chat a little bit more on the weekly updates. Yeah, so for the weekly updates, over the past week, like the last week, I guess, we've seen a decrease in borrow balance for CBBTC, but more recent data shows that there's been a huge uptick in borrow balance. So this might be a little obsolete, but yeah, we'll just go with whatever the last week's updates are here. And yeah, for this week's, you could probably see, the updates sometime on Monday next week. Either way, decrease in supply balance for DAI. Kind of in line with decreasing circulating supply and liquidity on base. Our ETH utilization has increased from like 22 to 30%. So more people borrowing our ETH here on Moonwell than the weeks before. And yeah, CBBTC's utilization decreased as well. But again, the latest numbers kind of paint a different story here. There have been pretty large, like low six-figure liquidations on the USDC asset, some low six figures liquidations on Arrow, and some like 5-digit liquidations on CBBTC. So yeah, pretty significant liquidations last week, probably due to just the market volatility. The reserves are growing at a healthy pace. If you kind of project this, the average total analyzed reserves are 1.5 million, and a chunk of it is being contributed by Arrow. So yeah, there's like huge borrowing demand and very high borrow APRs, and yeah, we've kind of trying to capture this opportunity by suggesting pretty high reserve factors as well. So that's working well for the protocol by generating good amount of revenues and fees. So yeah, apart from that, supply and borrow trends are up and to the right, growing, and utilizations are kind of trickling back to healthy levels, which is nice for both borrowers and suppliers. For optimism, we kind of saw a decrease in borrow balance for OP tokens, and that's the same case for Velo. Yeah, I think overall some of the supply balances have decreased across the assets, but yeah, nothing too concerning here. They do have the more significant growth have been seen on like the USDT, USDC markets, so which is nice. Really insignificant liquidations last week. Supply and borrow trends again up and to the right. Utilization creeping back to healthy levels. So yeah, again, overall, both base and optimism markets are at pretty healthy levels, growing at a very suitable pace. And in terms of risk, they're pretty much well balanced. On the Moonbeam end, we saw an overall decrease in borrow balances across the board. We did see USDT supply balance increase, and some of that kind of trickled down to USDC as well. Some high four-figure liquidations here. So far, the analyzed reserves projections are at about 63K, with Rat Glimmer kind of driving most of it. We did see a slight uptake in supply and borrow, which kind of might be reverting to the mean here. But yeah, similar for Moon River, decrease in borrow balances across the board. Pretty low projections for reserve growth, like 5-ish K. And yeah, similar story as Moonbeam, a slight uptick in supply and borrow trends. But yeah, I'm assuming this is kind of constrained with just the overall liquidity on chain. And yeah, I don't think this could be supported or have like a continuous growth considering, yeah, just the liquidity here. So yeah, that wraps up the weekly market update.
Great, thank you, Sai. Yeah, any questions on WBTC or any other risk things, go ahead and put them in the chat. And from there, let's go ahead and go on to the delegate section. So Darren is one of our first super delegates, aka 0x Mims. So if you want to give a little overview of yourself, your platform, the stage is yours.
Yeah, thank you. So hi folks, I'm Darren, or 0x Mims. Just to give you folks a little bit of background on myself, prior to any sort of like venture with Moonwell or Blockworks, I was with the Penn blockchain team / Franklin DAO. I was in their research committee, so I was a core contributor there. And now I'm with the Blockworks team. I'm on their research team and eventually their protocol services team as well. Though I want to note that my involvement with Moonwell here is personal at this point in time. And so far, my contributions to the forums and just to the DAO have been the addition of like the Euro stablecoin to the protocol. And if anyone wants to reach out to push like a proposal on chain, I'm happy to help as well. I know that we've had an influx of various like liquid restaking tokens like Puff ETH recently, so would love to help there. In terms of my involvement with Moonwell and what I've been thinking recently, I've mostly just been contributing to the conversation around the Well token, and possibly an upgrade for the staking module, so that would emulate something more similar to the Aave umbrella upgrade, right? And I think that there are definitely a few proposals I have in scope to help push Moonwell forward in the future, though these are all very, very early and I'm still brainstorming everything. And I am open to collaboration with anyone. So thank you.
All right, thank you, Darren. Yeah, he's great, as you can tell. Lots of experience in crypto, and so yeah, it's great to have you on as a super delegate. And from here, for this last portion of the call, I want to go ahead and get into the pitches for the delegate rush. So if we want to start with PGov, I believe that's Wanbug.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for hosting this call. I guess my name's June. Go by Juanbug on the forums. Similar to Darren, actually. Started with doing governance at Penn Blockchain. Recently started doing, I guess, professional governance delegacy for, I would actually say, a little over almost 2 years now. PGov, we're focused on, I guess, different chains and teams that we think have long-term success and growth potential. And we think that, Moonwell and sort of the ability and adaptation we've seen over the last few months and years has been really, promising. I think from our end, a few of our team members have been aping into, I guess, Moonwell since it was, the Moonbeam days, and even now currently, we've been farming a little bit of a bag using Morpho rewards that are Moonwell incentivized. And so we thought this was a great way. We've known the Boardroom team for a while now, and saw the call for delegate applicants and thought this was a great way to get involved. If there's any questions, I'm always on my phone, and so please reach out. Happy to answer anything. It's nice to see a lot of familiar faces as well.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, it's great to have you here as well. And then, all right, from here, Melo-san, Franklin DAO, and DAOPlomats, we can get started with whoever just joined.
Perfect. Hey, this is Jenga Jojo representing DAOPlomats. So we are a crypto native governance organization. We specialize in providing governance services in several different DAOs, and we've been operating full time in this profession for over 2 years. Some of the work that we have done ranges around governance structures, treasury management, as well as tokenomics. Some of the partners that we have worked with in the past are like Aave and Compound, Uniswap. So we are quite familiar with the DeFi space. We saw this opportunity in Moonwell, and also many familiar faces here, as others have pointed out. So we threw our hat in the ring, and we said, hey, let's get in and see how we can help the DAO decentralize and offer our expertise in the area of governance. Essentially, for Moonwell, we will be focusing on protocol adoption, increasing accountability, as well as governance integrity through our Delegate platform. Another member from us, 0xBear, has already posted a proposal to deploy Moonwell on Polkadot. You can check it out in the forums. And we are open to questions and comments via DMs also, or you can reach out to us on forums. Thanks, everyone.
Okay, I think that'll be it for our speakers. If there's anybody else that was a part of the delegate rush, that if you want to speak, you can raise your hand. So I guess just the final call to the community. Go ahead and look at those delegation pitches. Read through them. Do we need to hit 200K for each delegate to get promoted to the mid-tier delegate role? So that'll be it for the call. Quick thank you again to all of our speakers. And a recap of this call will go up on the forums soon, either today or tomorrow, along with a YouTube video. That'll be it. We'll talk again in a month from now. Thank you, everybody. Cheers.
Thanks, everyone.